All right. All right. Welcome and thank you, Ian. Great chatting off stage there just now. Really want to talk about today's guest, an absolute phenom. But before we get into Ian's story, um, just a quick welcome. This is the CRE Commercial Real Estate Playbook, your weekly spot for deals, strategies, and tips to level up your real estate investing game. Like I said, today's guest, Ian Love, is an absolute phenom. Incredible investor, incredible person, great friend of mine. Right now, he is reason why I say a phenom, a beast, a savage. This guy is super fit. He's running an incredible, successful career at his W-2 job, also brokering, and has been long time investing and is absolutely crushing it. His portfolio is absolutely one that is really desirable, really envious. And again, Ian, I think you've done an incredible job over the last couple of years, specifically, and then long term, really stuck with it consistently. So, welcome, Mom, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for that intro. I really appreciate it, and it's been fun getting to know you. And yeah, looking forward to discussing today.
Of course, man. I know I didn't want to introduce too much on what you've done. I wanted to hear it from you specifically. And I know we talked about some of those house hacking and syndications, but tell us a little bit where you started, how you got started, and where you're at today.
Yeah, so born and raised in Seattle, Washington. My background, or I first started out in public accounting. So I was working at Ernst & Young, the CPA track, which is still my career today. Not in public accounting anymore, but in tech, working as a CPA still. When I first started out, I came out in about 2009, 2010. So it was the Great Recession. So at that time, it was a little bit scary to get into the real estate market, but it was also presented a really good opportunity for those that were kind of coming into their working careers. So my first property was actually a bank-owned duplex foreclosure. And I was actually able to house hack that. So I lived upstairs. I bought this property for $260,000. And I was actually able to live upstairs, do minimal cosmetic rehab, landscaping, and things. And I rented out the bottom for about $1,200.
Hmm.
So the total mortgage was $1,400. I rented the bottom for $1,200. So only paying about $200 a month for a mortgage. And then kind of seeing that opportunity, I was able to cut my teeth through kind of the small landlord path
Sure.
and just realize how much opportunity that presents you by not, keeping your mortgage or your payments so low. So I did that for a few years and through about 2016, and then started getting into bigger deals, syndications, similar to what you're doing now. And then ultimately, looking back, I've been able to build a portfolio of about 8 properties in Seattle and 27 units, and about a $10 million portfolio here in Seattle.
It's awesome, man. That is fantastic. How did you get started in the house hacking? So, for
Yeah.
me, I still house hack to this day, and I still love it. But buying that first duplex, buying that first house hack property couldn't have been easy, especially if you didn't have a spouse or a partner who may not have necessarily been on board with it at the time.
Yeah. So for me, it took a couple of years. I was able to save basically $1,000 a month for 2 years, which is $24,000. And I ended up putting 10% down on this, $260,000 property. So I had to live with roommates, in the bottom floors of duplexes, and really just kind of live bare bones for a couple of years there because I was only making about $55,000 at work. So really, it just took me a couple of years to save up and then get my foot in the door on that first duplex.
Do you still own that duplex?
I do. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
What neighborhood?
Holler Lake. So
Nice.
I believe you have a property kind of close by, North Seattle.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
North Seattle, great spot. Holler Lake is still on the path of progress. I would say.
Definitely.
Uh, what's your thought there? Long term hold? You going to redevelop it? You just going to hold, watch, and wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because most people, the property they've held the longest is always their best, right? Just
Sure.
because time has given you the opportunity to, or it's kind of doubled or tripled over 10, 20 years.
Seriously.
So this one, it's 12 years of appreciation in it. I've been able to kind of go back and do a cash out refi when rates were dropping. So I've got a
Nice.
2.99% rate on it now.
Phew.
And then with some of the new zoning changes, I'm actually working on getting permits for garage conversion
Sure.
to develop a DADU or a detached additional dwelling unit on the same property. So,
Nice. And I know you've been doing those quite a bit lately. Walk me through the DADU, the conversion, and what and why you see that's beneficial here in not only Seattle but other urbanly dense areas.
yeah, so the DADU, detached additional dwelling unit, it's something that the city of Seattle passed a law on that allowed homeowners to do this on single family lots. And it's really a way for the city to combat the housing crisis that we're seeing in Seattle, but also across the country um, with affordability. So they're kind of calling this middle housing. So they're allowing homeowners to take single family zoned lots
Hmm.
and actually build additional dwelling units and detached additional dwelling units, which essentially you can put three and soon to be four units on a single family zoned lot. So they're kind of putting it's a great opportunity for homeowners, but it's also a way for the city to kind of push off some of these costs to small time developers or homeowners to create and fill in this gap that we have in our housing to create more affordable housing and try to combat the housing crisis that we're seeing with
Yeah, I
affordability.
think. Yeah, I think so much of what we hear right now with housing shortage and affordability crisis. I should say it a little bit differently. Is the issue that we see as developers, as folks that are active in the space, is the issue really is the inventory, right? So how much supply can we bring to the market to match demand? When there's an off balance of supply and demand in favor of demand, we're going to see higher rates, higher prices. Um, and the opposite is true. If we see a higher surge of supply, prices will come down. Now, obviously, we've seen some of that this year in the apartment space in terms of rentals, right? A lot of new inventories come online. A lot of new apartment units have come up for rent, which effectively squashes any of the rent growth. But the same thing applies to the housing market in terms of the single family and the for sale product. Um, you know, opening up the city, opening up these avenues of adding on additional units is huge. I mean, it's really going to be what will maybe not necessarily drop housing prices, but certainly hold flat and mitigate the rise of housing prices to allow salaries and wages to catch up.
No, definitely. And with inventory as low as it is, rates still high, prices are definitely, I don't think, going down anytime soon. But the additional inventory is one way that the cities are hoping will provide some relief for first-time home buyers and people that are really just trying to get into the market.
For sure. And I know, you as an investor are also doing this not just as a homeowner, but like I said, as an investor. And so the city, Seattle, also allows non-owner occupants, non-homeowners, to be able to do this, right?
Yes, yeah. So unlike areas of California, LA, where they have kind of the junior ADU rules, where you have to live in the front house
Yep.
to actually rent the back. um, and even when you go to sell it, you have to sell it as a package. I think some of those rules are loosening up in other places, but the nice thing about Seattle is you can actually do what's called condo conversion or condominiumize, and you actually can sell off each unit as a separate tax parcel. So you can take one single family zoned property and create three and sell them all separately without ever living in any of them.
That's great. Yeah, I think I think that truly is the way to create the most amount of housing stock effectively as possible. That's great. No, I love it. And so how many do you have? How many of these are going up right now for you? How many DADUs,
So
ADUs?
yeah, so I just finished my first DADU, and then I've
Nice.
got a couple others in permitting now. So
Congrats.
hoping to get at least one or two more built this year, and then on the hunt for the next project. So
So how are they working in terms of yield, right? I know in the multifamily space, the yield on development is not there right now, right? If I were to go buy land for a large multifamily apartment and build it, it's not advantageous because rents are down, rents are flat or down, values are down or flat because interest rates are so high. How does it differ, if at all, in the DADU space, and what would you
yeah,
say would be different?
yeah. So one of the things that's a little bit more streamlined with the ADU and DADU space is the permitting process.
Right.
So whereas if you were to build an apartment building or a townhome site, there's a lot of additional costs and a lot of additional permitting processes that you have to go through. So they've really tried to streamline and make it an easier process for investors or homeowners. Um, the easiest way to get a permit is use one of these pre-approved plans. You can actually go to the website. I think it's AD Universe, or there's a couple different options out there for you to look at the research. And there's actually 7 pre-approved plans that have already been approved by the city. And if they fit on your lot, then you can actually get permits in 4 to 6 weeks on
Yep.
these. Um, if you look at the options and none of them fit your site, you can do a custom plan where you'd work with an architect and get that done. Probably looking at 4 to 6 months that going that route. But even then, you're not having to pay some of these. I think it's called MHA dues,
Yep.
which is mandatory housing affordability dues. So there's a lot of different fees that are required on larger developments that are not required on the ADU and DADU. The other thing, so to build my DADU costs about $350,000 to $400,000, and as soon as those are done, they're worth around $700,000 to $800,000, maybe
Yep.
more depending on the market. So it's one of the biggest, I would say, asymmetric risk reward profiles out there for an investor that's looking to get into the development space, just because the permitting process is more refined. The cost of construction, you already own the lot essentially, so you're getting kind of a free backyard if you're buying a property for the house, and then you're going to develop the backyard or the side yard.
Right.
So there's just a lot of things that are in your favor as an investor that are make the process much smoother, cheaper, and a better return on your investment.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. I think the margin, the equity
Yeah.
gap there, right? 750, let's call it on average, to 400. Let's even give the high range of the expense, right? We're still talking $350,000 worth of equity in what could be, what would you say, a year?
Yeah, I'd say
I mean,
about 6 months to get the permits and 6 months to put up the
that's
building.
huge. That's huge. I mean, where else can you make 300,000? And I presume are you general contracting these, or
No, I actually
what's your
worked with a
involvement?
GC,
Mhm.
and part of the reason I chose to do that, there's a couple twofold really. One is I'm still working full time, um, both as a CPA, and then also working with as a broker with my wife on our business there. um, and also the kind of the future investment. So I really want to get into more of the larger development space, whether it be townhomes, apartment buildings. So for me, it was really an investment in the GC, and building that relationship so that I
Yep.
can then, if another opportunity comes up with a townhome site or apartment building, I've already got the GC in place. I can just run the numbers and see if it pencils, and if it does, then I'm off and running. So that was an important piece of it for me, just kind of looking at where I'm at and the time that I have or don't have to take on a project like that.
Yeah, having that trusted relationship with the general contractor, I think, is one of the biggest things, in my opinion, that scares homeowners, would-be investors from building or getting into any kind of renovation. Is oh, I've got a story of my friend who had money stolen, or some guy skipped town, whatever it happened to be. So there's plenty of those stories. those stories are obviously terrible in and of themselves. But if you can get referrals from folks like you that of general contractors that like and trust and you've worked with, I think that automatically de-risks this entire plan, especially when you were talking about $300,000 to $350,000 worth of margin in there, that investors could be taking from an equity standpoint. That's huge.
Right. Yeah, and I would say the one thing that we didn't even talk about is the cash flow on these
Yep.
properties, because if you're paying 350 to 400,000, you want to make sure that you're able to rent that property
Right.
for quite a bit too. And the average rents on these is anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000
Yep.
a month. So you're actually able to get the 1% rule,
Yep.
which is, for those that don't know, the 1% rule is essentially a metric that says you want to get 1% of your purchase price in rents every month. And it's something that you can only really achieve in the Midwest for the last 10 years, probably. So to be able to achieve the 1% rule in Seattle or one of these high cost markets is really difficult to do, and
Huge.
it's big.
Yeah. What are you doing with the main house? Right. How are you
Yeah.
how are you doing that? I think that's, for me personally, like that's my one of my biggest impediments, I would say, obstacles of pursuing the DADU plan more aggressively,
Mhm.
is what to do with the main house. So what are you
Yeah.
doing with them?
Yeah. So I'm actually living in the one that I just finished.
Nice.
Um, so I mentioned I house hacked for a long time, right? So I was living in one unit, renting out the other, of a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, for almost 10, 12 years. So this is kind of an opportunity where I can continue to have the back DADU pay for the front mortgage. So
Nice.
I'm renting the back for 3,500, and then the front mortgage is about 3,500. So I'm kind of calling it the grown up house hack.
I like
Um,
it.
but yeah, it is, it is a choice, because the cost of construction and the mortgage on that front house is often quite a bit higher. I was lucky enough on this one to get a 4.5% rate. But if you were at a 7% rate on the front house and your mortgage is 6,000, you might have to pay a
It's tough.
thousand dollars a month on that out of pocket if you could only rent it for 4 or 5,000. So it's really, you just have to find the right situation. And like I said, you can sell off the front house and keep the DADU, and you'd have 300 to 400,000 of equity in the back ADU, even if you sold the front. Now that you can sell them separately, so there's
Sure, sure.
definitely options.
So if a, potential investor wanted to try the DAD space and they came to you, Ian, and said, "Hey, Ian, help me buy a property where I can develop a DADU in the back,"
Yeah.
how would you recommend give them a scenario of walking them from soup to nuts, from start to beginning, of completing that DAD project?
Yeah.
And
So
let me, if you don't mind,
yeah.
let me throw one curveball in there for you. Is they don't
Yeah.
want to house hack, right?
Okay.
They want to do it as an investment property, whether it's a rental, whether it's a flip.
Yeah. So if you are not going to house hack and you're not going to live in the front house, I would tell them, up front, the costs are going to be considerably higher. The reason for that is essentially the down payment on the front house. So if you are going to own or occupy, you can get into that front house for as little as 3.5% to 5% down.
Hmm.
So on a $700,000 purchase price, you can get into it for $20,000 to $30,000. But if you're not going to own or occupy, you're going to be looking at least 20 to 25% down on that front house. So
That's
then
huge.
you're in the middle of, rather than 20 to 30 to get in, you're looking at 175.
Hmm.
So I would say, to get into one of these as an investment, you really do need to have a couple 100,000, either in stock, which a lot of people that I work with have money saved up. They're working in tech, and they have a couple 100,000 that they're able to take off the table of their RSUs or their stock and actually put into a DADU play like this. Because when you explain to them, I can make you 300,000 in 1 year, or you can keep that 200,000 in stock, and or 200,000 or 300,000 in stock if you account for some of the costs in the back. Do you want to double your money in a year? Or do you want to make 10 or 20% or possibly lose 10 or
Yep.
20%. So it's a great way to diversify for people that are I would say high earners. Um, so I would say first off, you need a couple 100,000 to get your foot in the door on one of these deals.
Right.
And then as far as that, I would look at the work that needs to be done. If it's a cosmetic fixer, you might need additional funds to fix that property up and then rent it. So let's just say that there's not much of let's just say it's 50,000 to do cosmetic updates to the main house. So you're all in 750,000. You put 175,000 down payment plus 50,000 to fix it up. Then ideally you've been able to create some equity on that front house. So let's say it's 750,000, and now that house is worth 900,000. So you've been able to create $150,000 of equity on the front house alone. That will allow you to, if you need to, you can actually go to the bank and get a home equity line of credit and potentially utilize some of that equity that you've gained for purposes of building out the back ADU. If you don't have that opportunity and you haven't been able to create equity, then there's other options. I guess taking a step back, once you buy that front house, the first thing you're going to want to do, fix it up, get a tenant in there.
Yep.
That way your monthly cost, let's say you have a $4,000 mortgage, if you can rent that front house for $4,000, you're at least breaking even right now while you're getting the permits and you're getting everything in place to start building out that back ADU. So that'll kind of stop the bleed or slow down the bleed of having the carrying costs. And then you can actually either condoize that lot, which is I think what you did because you had enough equity in the front house to be able to do what's called a lien release on the back lot. It's a little bit complicated, so probably like part of a
little
deeper
deeper dive
conversation.
for the next time.
Yeah, but I guess the point being there's options once you've got the permits for the back house. There's options in terms of how you build that out. So you could do a construction loan. There's the HELOC, either on your primary residence if you're not living in this one, or on your if there's enough on the investment property that you can do a HELOC on that. There's private money. There's hard money. There's a lot of different options in terms of how you want to fund it, because I'll tell you, once you have an opportunity and it's all permitted, and you can tell somebody, hey, especially if you're using a GC or somebody that's reputable, which when you work with me, the nice part is I'll give you everything from point A to point Z in terms of architects, surveyor, GC, contractors for the main house, lenders. So that's kind of one of the benefits of working with me is I'll walk you through all of this in a much more detailed way. But once you've got an opportunity where you can create 300,000 or 400,000 of equity on the back house, if you need to go to somebody and say, hey, can I get a loan for 300,000? I'll pay you 10% annualized. I'd be happy to pay somebody $30,000 for an opportunity to make 300,000, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you have the margin in there, like you were saying earlier, to really be able to pay somebody a good return on their money if they wanted to step in a position where they're a private money lender for you or a hard money lender. So that's kind of, I think the first step is finding a deal like that where you have an opportunity where the house is either sitting on an alley or on a corner, and the house sits on one side of the yard or the other, so that you have room to actually fit this second structure back there. And then the second part is going to be the down payment. Make sure you've got that 20-25%, and then finding a renter, and then working through the permitting process, and then we'll worry about how you're going to fund that ADU.
Love it. And it sounds like, being as experienced as you are, folks can heavily rely on your experience, your expertise, and guidance on helping get them through the process.
For sure.
Great.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's the fun part. I think we all love being in this space, the service space. We love watching, our clients, our friends, family, whoever it happens to be, really truly have their brains unlocked and understand that, they too can utilize real estate, land, homes to really perpetuate their wealth and to help build the lifestyle that they want.
For sure.
Well, love it. I know we are running out of time, and I think there were a couple other topics that we'll just have to touch on next time you're on the show. But What I want to save time for is this week's triple threat, where we talk about what you as an entrepreneur do to stay physically, mentally, and financially healthy and fit. And so the first off being physically, what do you do, Ian, on a regular basis to stay physically fit?
Yeah, so for me, I'm a big morning guy in terms of getting my workouts in first thing. So generally up about 5:30, workout from 6 to 7, and then start work at about 8. So at the end of the day, I just do not have the energy to do that. So I really like to get my workout in first thing in the morning, Monday through Friday, and
What's your
set
workout
myself up.
routine?
So I'm still in the old, chest and tries, or back and buys, and then
Nice.
legs and abs kind of routine, and then I'll finish it up usually with about 30 minutes of cardio.
Nice. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
From a cardio perspective, what do you lean towards?
So kind of goes back and forth. Sometimes I'll just do the high incline, like the max incline, hit like three and a half, and just kind of get a good sweat walking.
Yep.
Lately, I signed up for a half marathon
Oh,
this
nice.
upcoming year, so I'm starting to kind of run more, for that half hour, and kind of start building up to the half marathon.
Nice, man. When and where's the half?
It's not going to be until June in
Sure.
Seattle. If you're
Cool.
interested in joining,
Yeah, I'd love to actually.
yeah,
So I signed up for my first race as well, 50K up in Bellingham in the
wow.
middle of February. So
Oh,
it's
geez, this will be
yes,
easy for you then.
it's a true suffer fest.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I don't know about amazing. We'll see. I'll let you know how it is on February 18th. We actually leave
Yeah.
for Thailand, Southeast Asia trip 3 days after that race. So
Wow.
maybe I'll
Yeah.
need a wheelchair to get onto the airplane.
Yeah. You'll have earned the trip for sure.
Maybe. Awesome. What do you do from a mental standpoint? What are you doing to continue to sharpen your mental blade in terms of whether it's reading, podcasting like this? What
Mm.
do you do?
Yeah. So big audiobook. I always go back to the Jim Rohn Power of Ambition audiobook. It's
Nice.
one of my favorites. Podcasts like yours all the time. While I'm on that treadmill, generally we'll listen to a new podcast for 30 minutes. Um, the biggest thing in terms of like mental agility and staying on top of it is really just making sure I'm getting enough sleep.
Sure.
Uh, try to go to bed around 9:30 so I can get the 8 hours, and then really just trying to eat healthy during the week, especially um, having fish a couple times a week for dinner, and
Nice.
just really trying to take care of myself just so that I can keep up with the demands of you know all the different things that I have going on.
High caliber lifestyle.
Yeah, trying to take care
Good.
of myself.
You got to, man. I'll admit that the sleep is the one thing that I neglect, and it'll certainly catch up with me. It
Yeah,
has in the past, and I think I average 6.5 hours of sleep a night, and for the most part, Monday to Friday, I can stand it, and then I think usually Saturday, Sunday, manage to pop out a seven hour
yeah.
sleep night.
Well, you're a new father too, newish. So
Newish,
that's a game
almost
changer.
5 years old. It's still different, man.
Yeah.
There's always something to do. What about financially? What do you obviously we've talked about what you're doing actively to boost your wealth, your cash flow. What are you working towards? Are you designing a particular lifestyle? I mean, what does that lifestyle look like?
Yeah, so right now my near-term target is I'm 38 now. My goal by 40 is 10 million net worth. 25 to 35,000 a month passive income through rental properties, and 1 million earned income outside of my W-2.
Nice.
So that works out to about on a 10 million portfolio in Seattle, as you know, it's probably 5 to 7% appreciation a year. Will potentially double every 10 years. So I think if I can get to that point, then that works out to about 1 million in passive through equity growth and cash flow, and then 1 million through earned income. through different real estate ventures that I'm excited about. So that'll be
That's
about
great.
a million in each, and then that would just give me the freedom, option, and choice, right? To, similar to you're doing, go to Thailand when I want, travel what I want, just really live a life on my terms and make sure that my family never has to worry about money again.
That's it. That's big, man. I think it's all about the family, right? And just building that legacy through through financial abundance. I think that's what everybody should be working towards. So you set a good example, Ian.
Thank you. You as well.
Love it. Well, I appreciate it. Anything else? Where can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the DADU and or Seattle real estate?
Yeah, if you're looking to get into investing in Seattle or just wanted to, talk real estate anytime, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube at Ian Loves Real Estate. I've also got a podcast. Carl was just recently on it that just came out at Ian Loves Real Estate on Spotify or YouTube or LinkedIn. You'll find me there. So
Any one of those channels. Great.
yeah,
I'll of course link all that in the show notes as well. Ian, I
cool.
appreciate it, man. Great seeing you, great chatting, and look forward to getting the next deal done together.
For sure. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.